Praise the sun, and welcome back, everyone. This is Author Valentine, and today we're going to be looking at one of the greatest city builders from the late 90s, Caesar 3. Today's video is all about getting a solid foundation. Who's honking outside? Get out of here. Today's video is all about getting a solid foundation to your city. We're not going to be playing an entire map through to completion. This is meant as an absolute beginner's guide to getting your city started. What to look for, what kind of settings that I use personally, and how to set up your initial trade and get a line of money, so you can really head into the mid-game in the best possible situation. I do stream this game on Twitch as well at twitch.tv/authorvalentine. I'll leave a link in the description so you can follow that channel as well. We stream about 4 to 5 days a week. And with that said, we're going to be hopping into it. And Jen, just a word, this is a beginner's guide. There's all sorts of hyper optimization you can do in this game. You can really get into the nitty-gritty details and set up blocks that are really fine-tuned. We're not going to be doing any of that in this guide. This is just a basic guide. We're going to be doing this as well on the Augustus mod. I've picked out a particular map for this, one of the earlier maps that are in the Reconquered campaign. So this, even though it's not in the vanilla game, the same concepts that we're using here will apply to vanilla. So if you're playing the unaltered vanilla Caesar 3 experience, or if you're playing the vanilla campaign with the Augustus mod, all of these rules will still apply to you. In fact, they'll be even more effective because there's going to be certain things like rocks that you're not having to deal with as much, if at all, on most maps. All right, enough of me yapping. Let's head into it. All right, so the first thing before we even get into any of the gameplay is going to be some of my settings. Specifically, there's a couple very key settings I think everyone should have enabled no matter what. The rest of them you can play with as you see fit, and you can kind of figure out what works well for you. So the first thing, if we're looking right at the screen here, I have Enable Global Labor Pool turned on. I think this is deactivated by default, and you want to have this activated. Global Labor Pool will mean you don't have to organize your blocks near your industry. Plebs will just go to work wherever the industry is, and that's huge. I think that's one of the most important changes you can do. If you don't have that, you're going to be... You can still complete the game in the vanilla campaign without any difficulty, but as you get into more difficult maps, it's going to be harder and harder to try to design things. They're not meant to be completed without this activated. I'll just put it that way. So I say turn that on right off the bat. Disable infinite wolf spawning is also very important, especially in vanilla, because you're dealing with some, let's just say, bullshit when it comes to the wolf spawning the initial spawn points, and you're probably going to end up having to block them off with aqueducts. Again, this isn't so much of a big deal in custom maps or the Reconquered campaign, but I like to have it activated either way. If you're playing vanilla, you're going to want it. Finally, let's move over to city management. I have a bunch of things ticked here, but just some of the key ones that we can go over. I have double the capacity of cart pushers getting from granaries, so if we're moving goods from one granary to another, they can carry more stuff. Buying market ladies don't distribute goods. We're not going to get too much into mechanics, but markets spawn two market ladies. One of them goes and buys goods, and the other goes around and sells it to your plebs. This will just make it so they don't interfere with each other's jobs. The buying market lady will just keep going and buying stuff, and that's it. That's what you want. Allow traders to export food from granaries, I think, is very important as well. By default, I believe this is turned off, so the camel riders or the donkey riders who are coming in to purchase your food will only purchase it from warehouses. I find it better to just have a granary set aside for food that I'm selling and then put it by my trade route. I think turning that on is good. And then finally, one I think is really important is tower sentries don't need road access from barracks. We're not getting into military today, but suffice to say, your barracks sometimes, in fact often, you're not going to have it connected to most of what you're going to have set up defense-wise. just turn it on. It'll save you some trouble. You won't have to build a maze of roads on your map. The rest of these, I think the most important one for the rest of these is probably randomly collapsing pits and mines. Take some money instead. If you've played this game in its vanilla setting, you've probably been vastly annoyed by collapsing clay pits or iron mines. You have to clear out the rubble, you have to rebuild it. This just makes it so when it collapses, it'll automatically deduct some money from your treasury, and then you won't have to rebuild it. It'll just keep going. This is fantastic. Collapsing mines, especially if you have a big economy with a lot of mines or a lot of clay pits, it's just a hassle. So having that turned on is fantastic. The rest of these you can play around with as you see fit. Okay, with that said, let's actually hop into our map. So this is our map for today. This is map 4. This is Tarentum, and again, this is in the Reconquered mod. So if you're doing this in vanilla, this is going to look familiar, but quite a bit different. There's a lot of changes. Now, let's start with the first thing that we want to do when we load into a new map. First, we want to look at our objectives, right? So if you look on the right side of the screen here, and kind of in the bottom right, there's 5 objectives you have. This is how you win a map. This is your victory conditions. So it's culture, prosperity, peace, favor, and population. Now, of these 5, a couple of them really don't matter. The 2 I'm specifically referring to are peace and culture. Peace, you really can't do anything about except defend your territory. On a lot of maps that are only economic maps, you won't even have any direct control over this. It'll just go up over time the longer that your people haven't been sacked. So that usually will take care of itself. You're not too worried about that at all. Culture is affected by things like theaters and libraries, arenas, and things like that. Entertainment. Now, in the vanilla campaign, you often had really high culture goals. And the way you ended up fulfilling those goals is you would end up just building a block and you'd spam out libraries or just culture buildings and then build an engineer and a firefighter so they don't burn down. And then it provides you with a lot of employment, and then it just shoots your culture score up. It was just the most cheesable thing ever, and it still is. So a lot of times now you won't actually have to worry about this at all, because it's kept purposely as a very low score. I'm just realizing right now as I'm recording this that I'm wearing a very dark shirt, so I look like a floating head here when I'm over the black background of the map. Try not to be distracted now that I pointed out. Alright, so with that said, what's the next thing we want to look at? We've got an idea of what our objectives are. So on this map, it's 5,000 plebs, 40 favor. Again, favor is your reputation with Caesar. So if you fulfill his orders when he requests goods, if he requests troops and you send those troops and they save a city, all those things will increase your favor. Sending him gifts increase your favor. If you fail to send him those things or complete his requests, your favor will drop. And if it gets low enough, he will forcefully remove you from your post. And by that, I mean he's going to send a fucking army to kill you. So try not to ignore Caesar. That's all that is. The biggest goal usually on most maps is prosperity. So prosperity is the end-all be-all of a lot of the campaign. Prosperity is a measure of how prosperous, obviously, your civilization is. So if you have a bunch of people living in tent towns with no baths and they're stinky plebs, your prosperity score is going to be pretty low. But if you have blocks of fabulous villas with patricians in them living the high life, if everyone has jobs, if their pay is good, then you're going to be very prosperous. There's going to be some breakpoints in these numbers where you're going to need certain things and not need others. We're not going to be too worried about that at all in this. Suffice to say that 70 is very reasonable and can be completed without patricians at all. But we can save that for another video. All right, next, there's a nice little button up here that has a map of the empire. And if you hover over it, it in fact says, go to a map of the empire. So let's click on that. And here you can see your city, or our city here, Tarentum, right here in the south of Italy. And these cities with red flags are cities that we can trade with. Now, trade is the end-all be-all of this game, in my opinion. Everything can be accomplished if you're rich enough. If you have enough money, problems get solved. It's the same in real life, and it's the same in Caesar 3. And the best way for you to get money is to sell goods. Now, in this case, we have a couple of very cheap trade routes, so this is only 150 denarii to open. And we have some more expensive ones, like Rome is 2,000 denarii to open that trade route. Now, some maps will have some trade routes open by default, but most of them will not. You'll have to open them. And the map makers or the campaign will kind of nudge you in a direction of who to open first, because usually, you're going to want to open the cheapest one first, which in our case is Asculum. So what information do we see on this? Well, we see the name of the city. We'll see what it will sell to us. So they'll sell us timber, furniture, and wine. And more importantly, we can see what they will buy from us. And in this case, they'll buy iron, stone, and bricks. Now, if you go over to the left, there's a little coin button here that says show prices. So if you click on that, you can actually see what you'll pay for goods and what you'll get for selling your goods. So in this case, remember, we're selling iron, stone, and bricks. So over here, we can see iron right in the middle. And if we sell a unit of iron, we'll get 60 denarii. If we sell a unit of stone, we'll get 30 denarii. And if we do bricks, we get 75 denarii. So you can get an idea of how much money and you're going to make and where you'd want to focus. Now, there's a key difference here. Bricks are obviously not a raw material. You have to make them. Stone and iron, you can get right off the bat. So stone and iron are easy. You can focus on that right away. And even though stone isn't worth a ton, it's very easy to mass up. Not only that, but we see that this city, Asculum, they buy 50 stone a year. They also buy 40 iron a year. So they'll buy more stone. So usually, this is often the case, if you have a raw material that's not worth a lot, cities will buy it in bulk. They'll buy a lot of it. So even though it's not making you huge money, it's making you a lot of money over time. And don't ignore that. That adds up a lot. I like, personally, to open these up right away. At least one of them. So in this case, Asculum, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit open. It'll say new trade route established. This is a land trade route. So you can see it has a little grain cart going to it. And there are a second type of trade routes. You can actually see here, Sipontum is a sea trade route. It'll have a little boat. We're not going to be doing docks on this playthrough, but if you're going to be doing sea trade, you of course need a dock so the traders can land and sell their goods and then sail off into the sunset. The land traders, they'll be just coming through automatically. You don't have to really set anything up for them to do their job. They'll just automatically start coming into your city. So it's the easier of the two to manage at first. Not that shipping is hard, but you get the idea. All right, let's go back to our map here. Now, I pre-removed some trees here on this map. If you're just loading this in, this won't be here. There'll be a lot of trees. And I did this to demonstrate what you're looking for. Setting up blocks in Caesar 3 is sometimes more of an art than a science. It really depends on the map, what's in your way, what available space do you have, how close water is, if you can even get water to a location. In this case, because this is an earlier map in the campaign, it's not too difficult to satisfy any or all of these requirements. We have everything we need very close by. So let's take a look around the map before we get too deep into our block. Well, this is a military map, and so we know we're going to be getting invaded. Invaders come from open, exposed areas on the map, and so we can see immediately where we will not be getting invaded from. We're not going to be getting invaded from the east here. It's all covered in trees. There'd be nowhere for them to come in. We're not going to be invaded from our entry point or exit point. In case you didn't know, this red post here marks the place where traders and plebs will enter your city from. And this blue post marks where they will exit your city. So in this case, if I have traders coming in, they'll come in here, and they'll go around like this, they'll come up, and then they'll exit out. And then they can do trade along the way. We'll get more into that later. Plebs also will follow the same route here, except, of course, they'll populate your city, that they won't leave it. Well, you hope they won't leave it. All right. The next thing that's important to look for is food. You want to know, well, I'm going to have to feed my plebs eventually. Where am I going to be getting it from? And you'll notice that part of the map here has grass that's slightly different color. It's like a yellowish tall grass. That is where you can put farms. Not just farms, but also vineyards, olive gardens. Damn, I haven't had Olive Garden in years. Now I want an Olive Garden. Those breadsticks are amazing. Okay, and other things that you can grow. So we can see we have more down here, some here, and then there's a big amount of farmland up here, and a little bit over here as well. So we know where we're going to be getting our food at. Water is obvious. That's where we're going to be building our reservoirs, and we're going to be building aqueducts so we can supply water to our plebs. And then we have rocks, which is going to let us know where we can put mines and things like that. So let's start about how to build things. I think a mistake that every new player makes, and I did this too, is when you're first setting up a city, you go over to the right and you hover over this button that says build housing, and you just drag a whole bunch of houses like this, and you set it up. Well, what happens if we do this? Well, we have a lot of plebs who are about to come in. Anytime now. There they are. So plebs are going to funnel in. And I'm going to speed it up so you can just see what happens here. And they're all going to start getting into the houses. And before they start burning down, I'm going to show you exactly why we don't like this. I'm going to ignore that for a second. Okay. What just happened here? Well, houses merge together. You have 1x1 houses, which is just like literally one house, just like that. And then you have the little 2x2s like this. So these guys. Small tent. They're all small tent, but this has merged so you can see it's bigger. It's like a conglomeration of tents here, while these ones out here are smaller. You always want to avoid 1x1 houses. You always want to avoid this. They take extra food to take care of. They sap your prosperity. And if you do what I just did and just kind of drag a bunch of houses down, it will almost always happen to you that you're going to end up with some merged houses and some 1x1s, and it's very ugly. So, let's go ahead and reload the game here. When you're building a block, instead of dragging it all down, just build a 2x2, skip 2 spaces, build another 2x2, skip 2 spaces, skip 2 spaces, and so on and so forth. And you can do this over here, and so on and so forth. We're just going to do a couple of them. Doesn't matter right now. This will prevent the 1x1 nightmare that we just witnessed from occurring. Now, you might be looking in this and saying, but wait, this block, this series of roads wasn't here when I loaded the map. What is this? What is this size? Why is it this big? Why isn't it smaller? Why isn't it bigger? And that is a good question. There are many types of blocks that you can design. And a lot of the time, you're going to be designing blocks to fit the needs of the map, not necessarily your wants, because the map makers aren't nice people. They're all degenerate masochists. They hate you, they hate themselves, but don't worry about it. I'll share my hatred of them later. One of the first things I look for after I've gone into my trade routes, after I've kind of taken a look at the map and seen the layout, is I look for a place where I can build a 22x6 block. The 22x6 block is what you have right on the screen right now. This is the most efficient block that you can get. A market lady on a 22x6 can go her maximum route her maximum distance and visit every house, and you won't have to build another one for extra coverage. Same with your other buildings. It will fit a ton of plebs. A ton. It has plenty of room for desirability buildings, gardens, fountains, things like that, in the middle, so between the houses. And it also lets you get extra houses on the outside as well. So we can also put houses on this side or on this side. The 22x6 is your gold standard of blocks. Now, if in the vanilla campaign, you can build a 22x6, you can build multiple 22x6s on every single map, I'm pretty sure, without any issue whatsoever. Vanilla maps are very flat, they're very easy. But this is the first thing you're looking for, is can I build a 22x6 block? If you can't, then you'll go on and say, okay, what's the next best thing I can do? But a lot of these early maps will allow for this particular block. And even some of the later maps will give you like an area where you can build a 22x6. And that's usually where you're going to build your first block, because it's just very comfortable, very easy. And it turns off a lot of your brain power when it comes to having to design certain things or fit certain buildings into a block. Now, the 22x6 is the size of the block, not the size of the roads. So my roads, you can see vertically here, is actually 24. And horizontally here, it's 8. So when you're actually building your road is going to be 24x8. I know it can be confusing. I myself am an easily confused gentleman. Your road is going to be 24x8, but your actual block here, what's inside the confines of the road, is the 22x6. So we refer to it as a 22x6 here, just to make that clear. So what do we need? We've set up our road. We've got plebs moving in, but we can't just leave the plebs to their own devices, because plebs next to barbarians are the menace of all civilized people in all timelines. There is no greater domestic enemy to a nation than its own plebs. So how do we prevent them from going absolutely feral and burning down our city? Well, just like in real life, we need a few things. We need police, we need firefighters, we need water, and eventually we need food. And in Rome 3, we also need to appease the gods, but we'll get to that. Let's set up water first. Water's a nice, easy one we can do. Well, over here on the right, you can see a little wave symbol here that I'm hovering over right now, and it says water-related structures. And you have the water, you have the reservoir, the aqueduct, the fountain, and the well. Most of the time, you want to ignore the well. Wells suck. The reservoir is what you're going to be getting first. So, the reservoir will power your fountains, and your fountains in turn will provide water to your plebs' homes. Now, this reservoir, we can see, has a big blue square around it, and that is the range of the reservoir. So if I build this here, you can see that I'll be able to build a fountain anywhere in that blue square, and the fountain will work. If I build it outside of it, the fountain will not turn on because it doesn't have access to the water of the reservoir. Now, in this case, we have a nice reservoir. This is a good location because it reaches right into the middle of our block, so we can build fountains there. But, well, it's in the middle of the mountains. It's not touching any water. We need it to touch water. So, let's go ahead and build it. But we need to connect it to an actual source of water. So when you build a reservoir and it's near a source of water, you'll see the water inside of it turns blue. And if you move it away, it's empty like this. So there it's an empty reservoir, and here it's a full reservoir. Let's go ahead and build one right here. And then we need to connect these. So we'll connect those with a series of aqueducts. So we'll go same thing, water services, aqueducts. And we can actually drag click this. We'll just drag it from one to the other. And now we have a nice aqueduct system that will fill up. So let's unpause so you guys can see what happens. It's going to be magical, I promise. There it is. Boom. These have filled up. And now this reservoir is receiving water from this one, and it's fully powered, I guess you could say. it's ready to provide us with water. So what do we do next? Well, let's go ahead and build some fountains. Fountains operate the same way as the reservoirs, so you can see, if I zoom in here, you can see it's turned on, there's water coming out of it. But if I move it outside the radius of the reservoir over here, you can see it's a sad boy. It's a sad boy fountain, it's empty, it doesn't know what to do with itself. So let's make sure we have fountains in our blocks that have enough room to cover our houses. We don't need to have one over here. We don't need to have one down here. Let's try to get them all in the middle here so everyone gets access to fresh water. Some overlap is okay. So in this case, let's build one right here. We'll build one right here. And then to handle these houses in the middle, we'll build one right here. So that's 3 fountains. It covers this up just fine. So now we have water. What else do our plebs need to not riot? Well, like I said, police, and in this case, engineers, so their houses don't just collapse. Police is under security structures, and they're called prefectures. So prefectures are your kind of combo police and fire departments. And you can see it's a very small building, and if I put it next to a road, it'll tell you how far it goes. In this case, like I said, because we have our 22x6 block, it'll make a perfect round, and it won't miss any spots. If this were a bigger block, then it would go like 3/4 of the way around, and then they'd turn around and go home, and then some of your structures would burn down. You don't want to build bigger than this. So we'll go ahead and place our prefecture right here. And then, over here under engineering structures, we're going to go ahead and get an engineer's post. Bada bing, bada boom. Easy peasy. So, let's unpause. We'll let people migrate in. What this means is now our houses will not burn down, and they also will not collapse. There's one thing, though, that we've forgotten to do, and this is important at the beginning of every map. Sometimes I still forget it, though, so it's not the biggest deal if you forget. Up here, where it says Visit Your Advisors, you want to click on that, and then you're going to see a lot of different tabs and things to do. Don't get overwhelmed. Most of it is not going to be important for you for a long time. But one of them that is important is the very first tab. It says Visit Your Labor Advisor. Your labor advisor will allow you to prioritize where you want your workers to go. Now later on, this isn't such a big deal, but in the early game, when you don't have a lot of plebs, you want to make sure that certain services are prioritized over others. If you have prioritized, if you don't prioritize, or for example, if you prioritize something like entertainment, well, you might have a lot of theater workers and actors, but you won't have police potentially, or you won't have firefighters, so your city's going to burn down, and you're going to be the Emperor of Neuropolis. So, setting up your initial labor allocation is important. I always do the same 3 no matter what map. It's a bit brain dead, but it gets the job done. The first thing I do is water services, priority 1, so everyone's getting water. Prefectures, priority 2, so we have our firefighters, nothing's burning down. And engineering, priority 3, so our buildings are staying intact. These 3 are the most important. You can set the other ones if you want to. I actually usually leave them alone unless I'm really struggling with population. And then you want to kind of min-max, but like I said, this is a beginner's guide. You don't have to go further than this. Water services, engineering, and prefectures. You don't have to do what I did. You don't have to do 1 water services, 2 prefectures, 3 engineering. You're always going to have enough plebs to handle all 3 of these. As long as these 3 are marked so that you have them always prioritized, that's all that really matters. Okay, let's head back to our block. So you can see now we have plebs moving in, and they're getting into their little 2x2s. And because they have water, what's happening is those small tents are actually upgrading to large tents. So you'll see here, there's going to be a small tent town once these guys merge. They merge here. Any second now. Any second now. Any second now. Okay, this one decided to merge. These guys are just little bastards. Don't worry about it. They'll merge eventually. This is a desirability issue. Don't even worry about it. So these guys have merged into a large tent. if you right-click your houses, you can see how much room they have for citizens. In this case, we have 8 people living here with a room for extra 20, so 28 people total can live in a large tent. It'll give you an idea of how many people you're going to have at any given time. Now, we can add a few more houses here, so we'll go ahead and do that. So just remember to skip a little bit every so often. And we'll have enough plebs to set up our initial needs. You can see our unemployment is 64%. We have 41 unemployed plebs. It's a lot of unemployed plebs. So let's get these guys to work. What do we need to do next? Well, we've set up these guys, so we know things aren't going to burn down. But what have we forgotten? Well, health is looking pretty bad. And very soon, if you look at the gods here, we're going to be getting some angry gods. So we don't have any temples. So let's take care of those things first. I'm going to pause. Don't be afraid to pause a lot in this game to think about what you want to do, where you want to put things. Let's go ahead and do our health-related structures first. Always get a doctor. I usually get a doctor and a barber right off the bat because the barber also provides some health points here. So we'll get our doctor right here, and we'll get our barber right next door. So we have a nice little series of service buildings right here. We can also, if you want, get a bath right away, but you don't have to. So that'll take care of our health. But, like I said, we also need to appease the gods, because if you forget to do this early, well, they're going to get pissed. Having access to a temple is necessary for the plebs, at least one. What that means is you can build a single temple here and then build the other 4 wherever you want. You can build them in kind of empty space around your farms, it doesn't matter. But if you're just getting started and you don't want to worry about that, you want to just have everything set up here, it's absolutely okay to build all 5 temples on your block. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I have auto cycle turned on here. There we go. So we have our Ceres, Neptune, Mercury, Mars, and Venus temples set up. And we won't have to worry about the gods blowing us up anytime soon. You can actually see they just are starting to get mad at us. We have 3 lightning bolts there, so 3 of the gods are super pissed. That was good timing on our part. Again, if your gods get pissed enough, they start ruining your city really fast. So you always want to keep an eye on that. You might be worried, you're like, well, why isn't it going down? It'll go down in a minute, don't worry. All right, well, what's next? You can see up here, our money situation isn't great. We have 3,620 denarii. Well, because I reloaded the save here to demonstrate something, we actually didn't open this. So let's reopen our trade route. You remember how to do that, right? And let's set up our industry. You might ask, well, why aren't we getting food right away? Well, you can prioritize food, and so you'll get a lot of growth here. But plebs can subsist in their tent towns for a little while just fine. And you always, not always, but you almost always want to prioritize getting money before anything else. Because if this goes into the red, if you're negative denarii, Caesar ain't gonna be pleased. He'll send you a little money to the start to help you out, and then you're in trouble after that. So avoid going into the red. So this brings us to trade. Let's talk about trade. Right now we've opened 1 trade route. We have a land trade route. And so what's going to happen here is there's going to be a caravan that comes up from the red post, and it follows this route, and it goes out to the blue post. And we want to sell to those boys. And what can we sell to them right away? Well, we can sell to them stone, and we can sell to them iron. And both those things come from the same place. You can actually see them right now. You see those little donkey boys? Those are our traders. If you right-click on them,
I don't know why I bother with this route. They don't buy anything or have anything they want to sell me.
they're very angry because we haven't set up any industry, so they can't buy anything or selling anything to us. That's not good. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to set up industry, right? We got plenty of plebs here. We've got 92 unemployed plebs. We have more coming in all the time. We can build more houses if we need them. Let's set up some iron and stone. Now, A key concept in this game is what the traders will do first. What do they prioritize? Where will they go? As much as possible, you want to keep your traders on a straight path so they get in and get out as fast as possible. If I set up my iron industry and my warehouses over here, what happens is the traders are going to go all the way over here to buy, and then they'll go all the way up here to leave the city. And that's very inefficient. As much as possible, you want to keep them on their shortest path. Another thing to note is that traders will sell to you before they buy from you. So this means if you're importing a lot of things, you want your imports generally near the start of the map, so they can just drop off their goods here, and your exports near the exit of the map. That's not always true. If you have a centralized trade hub, you can have everything right in the middle, so they're just doing all things in one location. If you can fit everything at the beginning of the map here, like we can if we wanted to, we could do everything here, or we could do everything up here. The main thing you want to avoid, though, the only thing you really want to avoid is having your imports, so like a warehouse up here, accepting imports to a warehouse, excuse me, and then your exports down here, because what'll happen is they'll walk up here to sell, they'll walk back down here to buy, and then they'll walk back up here to leave. And we call that ping-ponging. So if you're ping-ponging merchants, that's bad, because the merchant will have to leave before another merchant can come in. You're limited to how many merchants are coming into your city at one time. So avoid ping-ponging. And how do we do that? Well, we're not going to be worrying about imports right now. We're going to be centralizing our trade, or having our imports here and our exports up here at the exit. If that sounds complicated, don't worry. You can just build everything in one spot so that they're not bouncing around too much. All right, so what do we need? Well, first, we need stone and iron. That's what they like to buy. So I'm actually going to get rid of some of these roads. This shovel tool here, the top middle one, is your delete tool. So you can see that'll get rid of trees, that'll get rid of roads, it'll get rid of buildings if you click on them. And we want to set up some iron mines and some stone mines. How do we do that? Well, over here on the right, in the bottom right, there is your little cart tab, and it says Industrial Structures. And we have our farms, our raw materials, our markets, our granary, our warehouses, caravanserais, and cart depots. We're not going to be worrying about most of these. The important one for us right now is raw materials. So if we click on that, we can get, on this map, clay, iron, stone, and sand. These are going to be different in every map. Some maps will not have clay, but they will have iron. Some maps won't have clay or iron, but they might have marble. Sometimes you'll have only stone. Sometimes you'll have timber, but no clay. Each map is different, and that's part of the challenge of the maps. That is part of the logistical joy of Caesar 3, is you're not always just given a paradise where you can get everything you want and sell it. You gotta buy, you gotta make deals, sometimes you'll have to buy your raw materials, you'll have to manufacture the processed goods and then sell those off. Sometimes you won't even be able to get you the manufactured goods that you want, you'll have to buy them straight up. So wine, for example, sometimes you won't have access to grapes at all. You won't be able to produce them in your map, and you won't even be able to buy them, but you can buy the wine. That is one of the joys of Caesar 3, is figuring out the wheeling and dealing of your empire's city and the economy therein. Now in this case, we have a lot to work with. We can't get timber, despite all the trees. Oh well, we've got some limp trees here. But we can get clay, iron, and stone. And sand. Great. We're not worried about clay or sand right now. We just want stone and iron. So let's just we'll get 3 of each. How about that? That sounds good. It's just a random number. There's no reason I picked that in particular. So stone and iron need to be near deposits. If I try to put them in the middle of a grassy field, it's going to turn red. It says, hang on there, buddy. There's no stone here. We got to go near a mountain. And in this case, there's tons of them. So we could go over here. We could build stone up here if we wanted, up here. It doesn't matter. For our purposes right now, we want them to be near our trade route so we can put them into a warehouse right away. So we're going to build them right at the entrance. So I'll get 3 stone quarries, 1, 2, 3 like that. And then we'll go to this tab, raw materials, iron mine. Let's get 3 iron mines as well. Why not? 1, 2, and 3. And now we can make our little road here. Like that. And we'll have plebs who are going to come work here. So let's unpause it for a second so you guys can see. And once we have plebs coming to work, you'll see them start to move. There we go. You can see stone, the crane working here. The iron mine is lit up. You can see them working inside there. But we don't have anywhere to put these goods. They're going to come out with all this stone and iron. They're going to be like, well, what do we do with this? They're just going to be standing there. We need a place to store our iron and clay, or not our clay, our iron and stone, and also a place that'll let the traders buy that iron and stone. And we have such a structure, and that structure is called a warehouse. So if we go back to industrial structures, we'll see a warehouse right here. It costs 70 denarii. So let's click on that. You can rotate buildings, some buildings with the R key. So you can see it rotating there. The traders will come to the little roofed area over here, and that's also where things will be taken to. So if I have it down here, it's kind of weird. If I have it over here, it's a bit far away. I'm going to put it like this. This is our first warehouse. Your warehouse is probably one of your most important structures because so many things happen at warehouses. This is where you're going to be storing things for sale. This is where you're going to be collecting processed goods to make your plebs happy, like pottery and furniture, so your market ladies can sell them to your plebs, which will increase the prosperity of your overall settlement. You're going to be building a lot of warehouses. So let's take a look at the warehouse. If we right-click on it, we can see the name of it. It's warehouse number 1. It has 0 employees, but we're paused, and we just built it. It'll fill up in a second. So don't worry about this, that'll fill up. And then we have 4 little tick boxes here. We have a fat lady in a green dress, the donkey man, and a boat. Well, these stand for who can come to this warehouse and do business. You want to turn market ladies off. You don't want market ladies coming to random warehouses across the map ever. In fact, one of the easiest ways to get yourself frustrated is you forget to turn this off, and maybe you have a market lady who's wanting to get food or pottery somewhere, and she's wandering to a warehouse that's 20 miles over in East Jesus, and your plebs are starting to starve because your market lady's off wandering out in the wilds looking for random things instead of just getting foods at the granary right next to you. So you want to turn that off. We're also going to turn boats off, but we're not going to do any boat trade or sea trade on this map. Also, because of the location of this warehouse, even if I was doing sea trade right away, the sea traders would have to land at a dock, and then they would have to walk all the way down here to buy what they need or sell what they need, and then all the way back to the dock multiple times before they leave. Your sea trade warehouses, you'll want to keep them near your docks. We're not going to do that this time, but just as a rule, that's what you want to do. Okay, let's go back to our warehouse. So now that we've set it as land trade only, you'll see that the flag here has changed to an image of a camel. If you set it to boats, it'll change to a boat. If you set it to just market ladies, it'll change to a little house. If you have multiple things here, you select it, it'll have the little scale marks, so you can see at a glance who's allowed there. So let's go back to doing just our camel boys there. And let's go back here to the bottom where it says special orders. So, also, this is new, but it says this building has a likelihood of catching fire. You can tell we have not built our firefighter or our engineer here yet. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's go to special orders. In my settings, I don't think I mentioned this, but I have this set as not accepting anything by default. The OG Factory Zero setting in the game will have this to accepting everything. So you'll have to turn off a lot of things, then turn on what you want. It's not a bad thing. You can just micromanage it and then turn off what you don't need and then keep active what you do. I think it's easier to just have it automatically set as not accepting. So if you build it and then forget something, you're not getting some random goods you don't need. In this case, we're getting just 2 things at this one. We're getting iron, which is right here, and we're also getting stone. And then you're going to see a number by the accepting or non-accepting buttons here. It says 32. A warehouse's maximum capacity for goods is 32 units. So if you have a warehouse like this one that's accepting multiple different types of goods, you want to make sure that it's not getting overwhelmed by one, and so the other one's not getting stored at all. In this case, because I have 2 types of goods coming in, I'm going to split it half and half. So I'm going to do 16 spaces that are allotted for iron and 16 spaces in the warehouse that are allotted for stone. And there we go. That's it for the warehouse. You've done everything you need to do. Let's just make sure we get a engineer and a prefecture here so they can prevent these mines and quarries and warehouses from blowing up. So now people are working. We've got a place for our goods. Our economy, our initial economy is off to a good start, I'd say. We'll come back to this in a second because it's going to take some time for these guys to work and these sales to take effect. Let's go back to our city. Well, we can see it's not looking great. We still have everybody in tent towns. We have a lot of empty space. We still have some unemployment. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the gaps here. So you can just drag select the rest of this because now it's only making 2x2s. Nothing's going to merge into a 1x1 and make a weird pattern that you don't want. So we'll go ahead and drag everything up here that we need. And there it is. We have a perfect block setting. But we have tent towns. And man, these guys are going to get pissed if we just leave them in tents. They need food. So let's talk about food next. You get food, obviously, by building farms. So, sorry, I did that pretty quickly. Let's go back. Industrial structures, farms, it's the very first tab. And you can see what you can get. In this case, for food, we have wheat, vegetables, and then vines. You can't eat the grapes. Yeah, that's just for making wine or selling the raw vines. Don't be building that right away. Don't try to force feed your plebs vines. They won't like it. In this case, we're going to be doing wheat and vegetables. Now, certain maps like this one will favor wheat, and certain maps will not. How do you tell? Well, don't worry too much about it. There's northern maps, which are kind of a darker green that have wolves. Those will be not as good for wheat, but the rest of the maps, this central tile set, and then the desert maps will be better for wheat. All that matters is that wheat is awesome, get wheat. So, like we mentioned before, we have these areas over here that is arable. This is our arable land. We did have some across the water here, but I don't really want to invest in getting a bridge right now. It's expensive to get a ship bridge. So we're going to be taking advantage of this stuff over here. So let's go ahead and get our shovel tool. We'll clear up a bunch of trees here so we can just make room for roads and things like that. And let's get some farms. So let's go to farm, wheat, and then check it out. If we're on arable land or close enough to it, it'll be just like you're seeing it now. It'll be a bit transparent and it'll let you know it's okay to build. If you're too far away, it'll turn red. And if you click on it, it says build farms on farmland, look for yellow grass. So just like with our mines and quarries, our farms need to be on arable land. So let's do that. Let's build some farms. We'll build a nice string of them. 1, 2, 3, and then there's a mountain here, so I can't build one there. We'll get our 4th one here. And then I'll build another string of them right here. We'll just get like a nice little block here so a road can fit through all of these. And just like with our granary, with our raw materials, our stone and our iron, well, we need a place to put all this food. And that's where not a warehouse, but a granary comes in, or herreum, if you're feeling Latin. And look at that big boy. There is our granary. So what'll happen now, just like with the warehouse, once the plebs are done farming, they finish their crop, they're going to take their crop over here and they'll deposit it at the granary. And just like with the warehouse, you can open up your granary here and you can set who you want to come here. In this case, you have an extra little person. This is a quartermaster. A quartermaster is responsible for feeding your army. So if you allow the quartermaster here, he'll actually, in addition to your market ladies getting food here, he'll also get food from here to feed your soldiers. We're not worried about military in this one. We're just going to turn everything off here. except for market ladies. We'll keep the market ladies there. Let's also not forget to get our engineer and a prefecture, so nothing burns down, nothing collapses. Always remember, engineers, prefectures, engineers, and prefectures. And now let's unpause it, and we'll see what happens. So once we get workers in here, you'll notice when workers come in, like for engineers and prefectures, they have a little flag that comes up. For farms, you'll immediately see things start to grow. For the granaries, you'll see the little crane moving up and down. And you'll always know when things are populated, except for certain things, like the doctor and the barber are kind of ambiguous. You'll see the walkers going around. Now, when we did this, we actually have way too many jobs and not enough plebs. So our unemployment is actually minus 52. So let's chill out for a second, and we'll wait for more plebs to come to our city so we can get enough workers to work these farms and that efficiently. If we look down here at our warehouse, well, you notice we're selling, let me pause it here. We're storing iron and stone, but these guys, they're not coming here to buy it. What gives? You know, we set up to let these guys, to allow the caravans to trade here, but these guys are ignoring it. What's going on? And this is a very frequently forgotten thing that you must do when you're setting up trade. Once you've opened up the trade route and you've gotten your industry set up, you have to visit your trade advisor. And don't feel bad if you forget this. I forget it all the time too. All of us do. So we'll go back to our advisors tab. This is where we were when we set up our labor boys here. We set up our priority. And now we're going to go to our trade. And the trade guy is the bunch of grapes right here. So click on that. And he'll give you a list of all the possible imports and exports for our city. So some of them you'll see, like wheat, for example, it is exportable. There is a city who will buy this, but I haven't opened the trade route yet. So if I wanted to, I could click on this and it would let me open the trade route if I wanted. If you've already opened a trade route and it's accepting trade of a certain good, it'll tell you. So like timber, the city we opened trade with, we can buy timber from them. We can import it. We're not going to, but we could. Iron is right here, and it'll let us know we can export it. And stone is down here, same thing. So let's go ahead and click on the exportable. It'll give us some information here, and it'll say not exporting. So this is important. Every time you open up a trade route, you set up industry, go into your labor advisor and tell them that you want it to export. And you might ask, well, why do I have to do this? Isn't it obvious? Well, actually, no. Sometimes you'll have a good you want to sell, but you don't want to sell all of it. You want to sell a certain amount of it. You want to, for example, like say you're selling pottery. Well, you want to sell pottery a lot, right? It's worth a lot of money. It'll get your coffers nice and full. But your plebs need the pottery too. If they're not getting pottery, they're going to devolve back down into the small causes, like the weaker houses, and they're going to be very upset with you. So you want to micromanage how much you're selling and how much you are keeping for yourself. In this case, for example, with iron, right? Well, iron I could make into weapons. So if I wanted to keep an industry for weapons, I wouldn't want to sell all my iron. I would want to keep some of it for manufacturing into weapons so that I could get my legionaries their swords and their scutums and all that stuff. Or maybe I could sell the weapons too. In this particular case, at the very beginning, we're selling everything we got. We don't need to keep any of this. So we're going to click on not exporting. And then as soon as you click on it, it'll default switch to exports over 0. Which means everything in your stores will be sold no matter what until the city who's buying it from you has reached their capacity. Or until the next year comes. This is what you're going to do with most things by default. Exports over 0. When it gets to more complicated things like we talked about pottery, then you can mess with it a bit. But for now, when you're just setting up your new city, exports over 0 by the default option is fine. You don't have to change anything. So we're going to do that for iron. And we're going to do the same thing for stone. There it is. So now they're set as exports over 0. Let's turn it back on. These guys are not going to turn around, but these guys who are entering, now you see, aha. They're going to come in, and Boom, they're buying. And our money is going up. Yes, they have bought a fair amount, and now they're going to leave the city. These guys who just came in, they realized, oh, this caravan bought everything that was stored here. We have nothing to buy. They're just going to walk out. We can, of course, add more quarries and more iron mines here so we can have more to sell. But again, this is just the beginner's guide. We're going to stop there for our basic economy. Let's go back to our farms. All right, what's the problem here? We have grain sitting here, and it's not being taken to our warehouse. Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. We set it so the market ladies can come here, but what did we not do? We didn't allow it to accept grain. There we go. Again, by default, for you, you might see this as accepting all. That's the default setting in the game, hard-coded. I have it for warehouses and granaries to be not accepting all, and I have to manually do it. Whatever which one you choose, just make sure your granaries are accepting what you want them to accept. So we've turned that on. And now, as soon as we do that, here comes the grain boys, and they're going to deliver. And then once they do, you're going to see the granary fill up like that. Well, this is great. We have our granary starting to fill up with goods. We've got 800 wheat there so far. But we need to get our wheat over to the plebs. How are the plebs going to get this? We need to connect it to a road, and we need to get someone to sell the wheat to the plebs. Let's do that next. I know it says enemies distant, don't worry about it. We're not going to be doing the invasion, so we won't talk about that today. Okay. Let's set up our road system here. And we're going to take it right up here so it's connected to our block. Let's actually do it right here. All right. So now our granary is connected to our block. And we can get we need someone to, like I said, to sell it to the plebs. And that's going to be our market lady. So let's click on our market and we'll put it like right here. But, wait, what's going on here? Now the market lady, you can see she's going all over the place. She's running to areas we don't want her to go. What happened? Well, we've connected a road. And now our walkers, so like our healthcare providers, our priests, now they're going to be going all over the place. They're going to be getting lost and things like that. When you connect a road to a block like I just did, it's very important to make sure your walkers, your priests, your librarians, your actors, whoever, to not deviate from the block. And how do you prevent them from doing this? Well, you need a structure called a roadblock. So roadblocks are here in administration or government structures. We'll put one right here so that the plebs, or the walkers, I should say, will stick to this block. Roadblocks are very important. It's very easy to mess something up, and then you have your priests or whoever wandering off to God knows where and causing all sorts of trouble. So now, if we build a market, let's go ahead and build it up here. Now it's confined to the block. She's not wandering around all over the place, right? That's what we want. We're gonna put her right here. And then we're going to right click on the market, special orders, and you can actually see what she'll trade. In this case, she's only going to be doing wheat. So I'm going to hit the little X button here and I'm going to hit trading wheat so that if we start getting other things, she's not going to go try to get it. We just want her to trade them. All right, let's unpause. Now, what's another thing that happened here? We have a road that's extended pretty far. So when you extend a road like this, you also want to check your other engineers and your prefectures to make sure they can still get around to where they need to go. If you want, right here, you can set up let me fix this road for just a second. It's so ugly. Half of this game is just making things look aesthetic. It really is. All right, like I was saying, you want to make sure that your your firefighters and things like that aren't wandering off to places they don't want to go. Because this guy over here, he's not touching any of the buildings, he's not inspecting anything, and these might burn down because he's just spending too much time away from the farms. We can use the same thing, the same principle here. We can get a roadblock right behind the granary in this case. And so now the engineer and the prefecture will only cover these buildings. They won't be going here where nothing is and wasting time. So use of roadblocks is very important. All right, so let's take a look. We have 2 market ladies at work, hard at work right now. This one in the brown, this fat lady, she's going to get the food. She's buying it from the granary and taking it to the market. And this one in the green is taking that grain, the wheat, and selling it to the plebs. And because they're now getting food, you can see they're evolving from the small tents up to, oh no, I'll tell you guys about that in a second, up to large shacks. So now we're getting shacks. Oh no, what happened here? Well, we have a plague. Oh no, there is a plague going on. We didn't feed our plebs, and we don't have enough health, so now our plebs are sick. If this happens to you, don't worry about it. We can just rebuild and recuperate our losses. One thing we can do to help out here is we can increase our health by getting a bath. Baths operate like fountains. They need to be near a water supply. If you build them too far away, you can see there's no water in this bath. It's useless. So your baths are going to end up always near your reservoirs. In this case, I'm going to build it down here. Aha, and now we have our first request from the Emperor. We'll get to that in just a second. Our bath will help out with the public cleanliness, the overall health of our block, and it'll make it so this shouldn't happen. Now, we're getting food. We're selling food. We're starting to level up. Once the plague ends here, we'll go ahead and rebuild these houses. We're not too worried about it. We've satisfied the gods, and we're starting to get money. Look at that. What just happened? Well, I'm glad this happened right now, because this is going to happen to you, and you're going to want to see it. We just got an order from the Emperor, or from Caesar. Let's go find it here. The Emperor requests goods. It says, Rome needs the following goods. Please arrange for their swift dispatch. Very often during a map, Caesar will ask you for goods. Sometimes it's raw materials like iron, sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's processed goods, and sometimes, if you're with a masochist map maker, it'll be something you can't produce and you're going to have to buy from another city. In this case, we're not going to have to buy from anyone, we're getting our own iron. But you might know that we're selling all of our iron. We have exports over 0. That was our setting. We're selling all of our iron. Well, that's not good, because if we're wanting to store iron and to send it to Caesar, we got to stop our traders from taking it. And you might think, well, we have to go back into our advisor and tell him to stop. We actually don't. When the Emperor requests goods, there's going to be a new thing, a new option that appears on our sidebar. And down here, right here, it says requests. 0 of 8, 24 months. It'll tell you how much you need, how much you have, and how much time you have to fulfill the order. And then it'll give you a nice button here that says store. So let's click that. So because we clicked store, what happens is now these traders are not going to go buy it. They're not allowed to. And it'll just keep storing it for as long as we let it. Once we get to 8, we'll get a message saying, hey, you've got your goods ready to send to Caesar. You can send it off, and then it'll auto take it off store, so you'll be selling it again. So in this case now, you'll see iron start piling up. We have 1 in here now, and now it says 1 of 8. We'll let that be for now, but you get the idea. Our plague has also ended up here, so let's go ahead and get rid of the rubble and rebuild the homes. Our houses are continuing to level up. We've got hovels, small hovels now, so looking a lot better from the tents. But we could use some, well, we could use some desirability. This isn't a very pretty block, and some of these pubs are probably upset. In fact, if I right-click this one here, it says, large check, you need to improve the desirability of the local area, perhaps by placing some gardens or a plaza. There are a lot of options for desirability in this game. I personally like to do pawns. Let's look at that again. That was pretty fast. If you go to your right bar here and you click the administration or government structures, there's a lot of options. I go to parks and I go to pawns down here. Now, pawns need access to water, so they're not always the best option, but I think they look cool. I just think they're neat. So I'm going to get some pawns. We'll get one there, one there, one there, and one there. And this is going to fill up with water, and then boom, look how fast that was. Immediately, these guys start leveling up, and they get up to small hovels. When a house levels up, the amount of people who can live in that house increases. So if we pause here and we click on our large tent, this was the plague house that we just rebuilt. This can fit 28 people total. The small hovel, on the other hand, can fit, we have 34 occupants with a room for extra, we have 34 occupants with extra room for 18. So that's 52. 34 plus 18. If we can get 52 people in here compared to 28 people here, that's great. It's a lot more plebs we're going to have in our city. But that also means we got to get those plebs jobs. Our unemployment right now is crazy. We also want to level these guys up a little bit further. The higher up you get your plebs in terms of housing, the more needy they become. Well, how can we help this block out? We've got money, we've got trade, we've got all of our health services, we've got our gods set up, we've got some desirability buildings set up here. What else can we do? Well, what do we don't have that plebs like? We don't have any education, we don't have any games, we have no theaters or anything like that. So let's start to think about those things. First, if we go to the little mask tab here, the entertainment structures, let's start by getting a theater. Let's get some entertainment for the plebs. I'm going to put it right down here. For education, let's get a library. We'll put it right over here. So now we're going to have educated and entertained plebs, and we'll see what happens. But you might be thinking, wait, isn't that going to be leveling up our structure so we're going to have massive unemployment? And you're right. What do we do? We're going to have so many plebs. This is the perfect opportunity to increase your industry. You want to be making sure your plebs are put to work. Because we have... Oh, you know what? I didn't even notice it. Our order here is now full. We're actually overstoring here. We have 9 of 8, 20 months. Let's go ahead and send our request to Caesar. Sorry for getting distracted there. So now that we have enough plebs to really get our powerhouse of an economy going, let's do it. Let's really increase our ability to manufacture and sell. First things first, let's just add straight up more iron mines and more quarries. Let's double it. Why not? We'll get a bunch of quarries up here. All right, and then we just need to make sure they're connected to our roads. So let's make our road go up and around, just like that. Double check your prefectures to make sure they still cover everything. They do. You can use roadblocks if they're going to places where you don't want them to go. So we could, if we wanted to, we could put a roadblock like right here so they're not wandering off into this area. In this case, this isn't too long of a road, so I'm not too worried about it. So now we're going to be really producing a lot of iron and a lot of stone. And we're going to be selling a ton of it. Well, that helped a little bit. What else can we do? Well, we can expand our industry. That's the thing we can do. We can maybe get more things to sell. Let's go back to our trade map. Beneventum over here is another land trade route. It costs $750 to open, and they'll buy other things. They'll buy clay, veggies, and pottery. Well, we could open that up, and we could start getting clay pits. We could start getting vegetable farms and set up a vegetable farm granary only, just for shipping off to for sales, not to feed our plebs with. We could start producing pottery. We could turn that clay into pottery and then sell the pottery. As a rule, manufactured goods are always worth more money than the raw materials they're made from. In this case, you can see our clay will get us 30 denarii per sale, but pottery gets us 140 per sale. Pottery's worth way more than clay. Now, they won't buy as much pottery In fact, they'll buy double the clay than they will of pottery, but that's worth way more than double. So it'll be worth it to start manufacturing your own pottery for sale. But I think for now, there's only really one thing we could vastly improve here. And it's something I'm going to share with you because a lot of maps are going to have areas that have farms very far away from your blocks. Your granary production, or your wheat production, whatever, is going to be quite far. You can see that the Empire is the Emperor is also very happy for us sending the iron. Our favor score has gone up. He's pleased. That's good. I'm going to ignore this second message. It's specific to this campaign. And let's take a look at here. Well, our market lady is having to travel a little bit of a distance to this granary to get the wheat. It's not too far. It's not ridiculous. But it is a bit far. How can we improve this? Well, what I generally like to do with a block is to get a granary as close to my market as possible. And I do mean close. In this case, let's get a granary right here. And this is going to be a very kind of simple intro to logistics when it comes to food. Now we have two granaries, and we have one that's accepting food and one that's really close to the market. How do we get our food from this granary to this granary so that our market lady doesn't have to travel so far? She can just buy from here, and then our selling market lady can just, bam, like that, take it out and sell it. Well, there's a couple ways we can do it. There's a simple way that's not very effective, and then a very effective way that requires a bit more planning. So let's talk about the simple way first. Well, the first thing we could do is we could turn off market ladies from this granary, and you'll see the flag disappear. So now market ladies are not allowed here anymore. In our new granary, we'll make sure market ladies are activated. Let's turn off everything else. But how are we going to get wheat over to this one? The quick and dirty way is to go to your special orders, and then wheat here, set it to getting food. Let's see what happens when I do that. So just right now, our granary who's getting food just spawned a cart pusher, and he's going over to wherever a granary is that has what he wants, which is right here for us, and he's picking up the goods and he's going to take it back over to this granary over here. Also, what's happening is because this granary is full, these farm workers are also getting their goods all the way over here. That's not really efficient because you want them, just like you want this granary to be close to the market, you want your farmers to be delivering to a close granary. You don't want them to be walking all over the place and then have a slow production for your farms. So what I just did here is fine for this distance. Let's say you had a farmland that was really far away, and it's taken that cart pusher super long to go back and forth between these two. Well, there's a building for that, and it's called the cart pusher. So in your industrial structures, or your cart depot, excuse me, you can go to your cart depot and place it right here. Why not? Now, before I continue, you notice how we use these roadblocks here? What does that mean? Well, it means that our engineers and prefectures aren't patrolling this area. Same thing with these guys. They're not coming over here. So this little sucker, it's going to burn down if we leave it. Let's go ahead and take care of that now. You don't want your things to burn down. It's annoying. All right, there we go. The cart depot was not with the original game. What I just did with the setting getting food or getting goods was the way to go for a long time. The cart depot was introduced with Augustus, and it's a specific building so that you can shuttle goods and materials from one place to another very efficiently. In this case, if we right-click it, it says Cat Depot. I like that. Cats are sleeping in the empty carts. Very nice. You love the sense of humor from the Augustus creators. You can set it to do a few things. We're just going to be making it very simple on ourselves. You can set it to what you want it to deliver. In this case, it defaults to wheat, so wheat is perfect. That's what we want. You can set when you want it to do it. So for example, this becomes more important with processed goods like wine or pottery. You could set it to only deliver when the source has a certain amount. You could set it to only deliver when the destination is under a certain amount. We're not worried about any of that. We're just going to do always. Next, we select a source. So let's click off this real quick. This is granary number 2. This is granary number 3. So we're going to be taking from number 2 and going to number 3. So now, in addition to this guy sending out its own cart, the cart depot is going to send out its own little oxen, and it's going to be helping to transport goods over here. See, there's the little ox. It's going to go and pick up goods. This is overkill. We didn't need to do this because these are very close together, but that's just a very brief intro to cart depots. Let's go back to our city here. We do have some houses that are not yet leveled up, which is unfortunate. But we'll see that happen in just a second. But this is where we've really wanted to get to. These orange roofed houses that actually look like houses, not hovels, not tents, are called small casas. And these are great. You love small casas. You can get a lot done with blocks of small casas. They fit a ton of people in there. They fit 68 people inside. Compare that to our tents, which were just 28 here, or our hovels here, which were 60, which is pretty good. Large hovels anyway. Our large shacks, which are 44. These are, you get a lot of bang for your buck with small casas. How did we get that? Well, we got them food, we got them gods, we got them entertainment, we have our theater, and we got them education. We have our library, and we have a bathhouse and the other stuff. The doctor, things like that. That gets us to small casas. So if you're looking for a reference of what you need to have, this block has everything you need to get to small casas. The reason that some of these are devolving is actually because the market lady was having to go pretty far to get to get wheat. And also because the more people who live in a house, well, the more goods they're going to want to buy, the more food they're going to require. This will sort itself out in a little bit. If you're worried about a block that looks like this in the beginning, the food will get around. You can see the market lady's making her rounds. She's probably selling a ton of food to these guys, and then she's running out of food before she gets here. Eventually, it'll get itself sorted out. Don't worry about it. But this is what a good starter block will look like. You have gods, services here, so things aren't burning down. You have entertainment, education, a bath, fountains, and some desirability. Your food is close by, your market lady is able to deliver what she needs, and you can see how I told you it's working itself out. Everything's getting to where it needs to be, and these guys will level up into small casas soon. So let's zoom out here, and let's see what we've accomplished just in this short time. We've got a booming industry here based on our stone and our iron. We're selling a ton of it. You can see our denarii is at 47.71, which is double what it was just a few months ago in the 270 BC year. We have plenty of food here. We have 8 farms, and it's delivering enough food to this granary here via our cart depot. And we have everything we need to expand our city and make it something incredible. This is what this city looks like just after your initial few years. We didn't do anything with the army, but just to show you what the city can look like when it's really operating at max capacity and it's nearing your victory conditions, I'll show you guys. Let's head over to what a completed city looks like. And there it is. This is my near completed city. We're about to win. We're very close. We're just waiting for our peace, and then our favor's a little bit low. And you can see in the map I completed, that first block we set up, look how that looks now. We've got big, old, large insulae here filled with happy plebs. We've got our libraries, theaters, we have an arena, we have an amphitheater, we've got a school, we have a tax collector here, so we're getting a lot of tax money. Down here, we've even added another block here, with a smaller block with plenty of plebs. We've gotten some industry going over here with actually that revolves around producing furniture. We've got up here, this is actually where we put, this is a different save file here, but this is where we put our stone and our weapons manufacturing, our iron and things like that. Look at that. We got clay, we've got pottery being built. We've expanded across the river. We've got a ton of farmland. We're producing vegetables and wine and all this stuff. We've got some defenses. We didn't get into that today, but just to show you guys what that would look like here. This isn't an ideal setup. It's just what I did on this map. We've got a lot of infrastructure everywhere, and everyone is happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. All of this started out right here. So what we did today is the foundation for a great city, and it'll let you get everything you need in order to succeed in almost every map that you're going to play. I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. If there's anything you'd like to see done, or if you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below. You can also visit us at twitch.tv/authorvalentine, and if you'd like, you can follow us there too. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.